Hi guys, welcome back. This is Kerrilyn. In today's video, we'll be painting from the sketchbook. And this is what we will be doing for today. I'll be showing you how to paint all these lovely colorful florals in loose style, and also with all these tiny lovely details of the flower pots. And I'll be showing you how to paint these shadows that will give an overall contrast and depth to the whole painting. If you're looking for some ideas on what to paint and what to fill in your journals or sketchbook, do join along and let's get into it. I have my sketchbook here with me, and this one I'm using Hanemule sketchbook. If you like to paint along, this paper will be in size A4. And to start off, I'm going to sketch off the placement of the flower pots. And I'll have the reference photo as well in the description below. And following the center of the reference photo, we have a big pink floral pot here. And I'll place it in the center of the page. And maybe I'll have one on top on the left. And it's up to you to decide how you want to place your pots. Don't necessarily have to follow the picture exactly. And then I'll just leave it blank for the flowers and we'll paint that in. Maybe another one here. And another one in the corner. Okay, and this is just a very simple sketch just to give an idea where the placement of the pots are. And then let's start painting. The brushes that I'll be using, one is size 12. This is for the larger areas of painting the shadows later. And then I'll be using a size 6 brush to paint the florals and the flower pot details. And let's start with the center pot here. I will grab some pink on my palette. And one trick that I like to show you is using a clean brush. Wet your brush and remove excess water, and what I'm going to do is just roll it over like so on certain areas, as I'll like some of it to be wet and some of it to be dry, so that as I apply my paints later, we'll get both soft and harsh edges. So you can see that I'm using a very watery mixture here. And these dry areas are where we get the harsh edges, and then down here is where the areas that is wet. So we get both soft and harsh edges. And then be sure to leave in some white space in between. And then I am washing off my brush and with just water to blend out. Like so, and then let's go in with more paints this time. With thicker paint, I'm going to drop in on these wet areas to define the shape of the flowers. And I think I'll like to have it falling down to one side. Flowers like bougainvillea, they tend to overgrow and then fall onto one side, and it gives a very nice overall shape to the flower. So I'm gonna let it droop down over here. And again, I'm washing off my brush just with water, and then just press the whole belly brush down to blend off. Okay, and then let's go in with some greens. I am taking sap green. And then you can see that this area is still wet, which is why we get some nice soft blends. And I'm going to extend this out a little bit here. And towards the bottom area, it's where it's the darker shadow. I'm going in with my darker green. I'm using a greenish umber and then darken the areas closer to the pot. Alright, just like so, and I'm going to leave this as is right now, and then we'll move on with the same technique. We're going to paint the rest of the pots. And we have some orange flowers, so I'll do that here. Feel free to pick any colors that you already have on your palette. And then you can see here that I did not pre-wet the paper, so it's up to you. You can decide. Some pots we can do with pre-wetting and some pots we can do without, so we get some variety in the different effects. And then towards the outer area, we can do it, add in some tiny dots to show the smaller petals. And then let's go in with green. And I'm going to have some of the stems coming out. And let's do some splatters on this area, like that. That looks pretty. And I'll probably do some reds here and maybe a dark red at the back. And I'm following the center bottom flower pot from the reference picture. Has a lovely red hue for the petals. And I like how it's shaped down, hanging down like this. This gives life into the plant. And then you can see here it looks pretty flat, so I'm going in with a thicker paint as we did earlier to add in more of the shapes of the petal. And it's really helpful to have a brush that comes with a sharp tip, because this will help with these tiny dots for the petal details. to balance this out, I'm going to do an orange here. I gave it a quick dry and we are ready to paint the shadows. So here I am using size 12 big brush, and then we'll go in to prepare our colors for the shadows. Since we have lots of warm colors going on with the reds and orange of the florals, I am going to balance this out by adding some cool colors. So we will mix in blue and purple for the shadows. And for blue, I'll be using ultramarine blue with some purple. You may use any purple that you have on your palette. We'll be going for a very light wash with lots of water, like this here. And then to make it a little more interesting, I'll also add in the shadows, some colors from the flowers. And looking at the reference photo, we have the sun coming in from the top right, and that's where we have the shadows casting down this side. So it will be brighter on the top right and then darker at the bottom left. And I think let's start with this orange. So try to imagine having the shadows casting down this way, and I'm following a bit of shape from the reference photo. And the same concept, we will want to leave lots of white space in between. And then now, washing off the orange, I'll pick up some of the blue. And let's play with a little bit of purple at the bottom. Just like that. Maybe add some more orange here. Okay, and then let's do the same for this red. Try to keep it as watery as possible. Let's do the same for this, and I will change to a smaller brush, size 8, since this is a smaller pot. And then not to forget the pots. Since the shadow is overlapping some of the pots area, I'm going to paint in the shadow here as well. Let it overlap. And I think here there's too much orange, so I'm going to bring in a little bit of purple to cover off. And then blend off the harsh edges. And I might darken here a little more. So to make it easier, I'm going to pre-wet this area just with water and then go in with a dark color. And you can see this is easier, that we're achieving a nice softer effect. Alright, and then we have some shadows coming from the top as well. So I'm going to add a little more on top here. Alright, and let's leave this for now, and I'll go in to fill the pots. For the pots, I'll be using ultramarine blue and size 6 brush for the details. and then for the next step, I am going to keep adding details because certain areas I feel that it looks a little flat, and I'll keep adding some shadows to darken certain areas and bring depth to the flower pots. And now we will bring in some of the highlights back, and I'm taking my white gouache, and with an almost dry brush I'm going to apply it in areas which are darker, like the shadow, the dark green areas here. Just a tiny dot like so. Add some to the shadow areas to create back the white spaces which we may have overcovered. So I'm connecting this line here and doing some dry brush strokes to give some interesting effects. And feel free to opt out this step if you're not comfortable doing this. This is just an additional effect that I feel like adding in because it gives more textures to the background. After all, we are painting on a sketchbook, so be adventurous, and if you are feeling like it, go ahead and explore new things like what I'm doing now with this white gouache. This is the first time that I'm actually doing this. And yeah, I learn something new every day as I'm making new videos for you guys. So this is why I really enjoy painting on Sketchbook, because it's a safe place for me to make mistakes, explore new things, and yeah, basically just have fun. The process is what matters the most, not the results. So go ahead and give this a try with this gouache technique. I think I pretty like how it's turning out. And that's all for our painting. And this is what the final painting looks like. And overall, I'm pretty pleased with how this turned out. And I'm still amazed with what I did with the white gouache, dry brushing over the shadow areas. This is my first time doing it with you guys. And I like using this, and maybe I'll implement it in my future paintings, because what it does is that it's able to introduce more texture into the shadow areas, and I'm also able to correct my mistakes. Certain areas where it looks pretty flat, by applying this dry brushing of the white gouache, I'm able to bring back some of the highlights as well. And also it's fun to add back some white details, especially on the darker green areas. And it will help to bring back the white spaces that we've accidentally filled in, and overall bring a very airy, fresh atmosphere to the overall background. And yeah, I hope that you will give this a try. If you do not get it right the first time, please do not worry, and please be kind to yourself. And I'll show you that this is not my first painting. I've actually did a practice one here, and I wasn't really happy with how the background turned out, because here I ended up getting muddy colors and everything is just muted. And I did again with the second time, and you can see the difference between the two. Practice definitely makes perfect. And you can see that I've managed to avoid a lot of the muddy colors and bringing in more fresh, clean colors to the painting. So happy painting, and I hope that you enjoy this one, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye!